There it is. The Simpsons game that got overshadowed by Hit and Run. So, does the overshadowing of this game mean that it's not worth checking out at all? Well, let's find out. And I guess there's no better place to start off than the story for the game, as it's a classic small city or town versus a big mega rich corporation, or in this case, just Mr. Burns, as he is opening up a transit company with nuclear powered buses. And of course, no one in the town likes that, so they decide to band together and make a makeshift sort of taxi company, I guess, by using their own cars to get people to where they need to go. Or I guess, in other words, the Simpsons predicted Uber. But anyway, this leads us directly into the actual gameplay. And well, the game is you going around several parts of Springfield, picking up passengers and dropping them off as quickly as possible, since you're under a time limit. And if the timer goes all the way down to 0, then it's game over. So you gotta be super speedy with your passengers to get it to keep going up, as well as be successful during the random bonus opportunities, in which you're given a hefty amount of cash as well as 5 extra seconds if you're successful during them. And yeah, that is the gameplay for the main mode of the game. And you're not wrong if you're thinking, haven't I seen this before? That is because this is literally just one big Simpsons ripoff of Crazy Taxi. And I know using the word ripoff is a bit harsh, but I mean it's so much similar to the game that Sega actually ended up suing, I think, Fox over this. But anyway, you explore these parts of Springfield, you get people on time, you get money, and then you use the money eventually to unlock more levels, as well as more drivers. And of course, this being The Simpsons, all of the characters interact with each other in different types of ways, all spewing one-liner jokes one after another. On top of that, well, the music is blasting all the while, and I'll be honest, it's actually pretty good music. It, fits the perfect balance of enough SimCity and enough action-y to work for the game. And I also appreciate the constant looming threat of Mr. Burns, with him always coming in at the beginning and the end of your run, as well as his buses always out to get you, his bus stations that you could destroy for extra time, and him randomly popping in to attack you, ram you off the road. It's kind of a really neat gameplay addition, the fact that you're being attacked and you gotta drive around it, prevent it. I also like how all the cars that the characters drive in this game are straight from the show. You know, with Homer in the pink car, and Bart with the honor roller, and then Marge with the Canyon Arrow, and so on and so forth. And yeah, overall this part of the game is very enjoyable, even with the little things of being able to pull off these neat little handbrake turns that I love doing whenever you drop someone off. Or when you're about to lose a passenger because of time, it's neat that you can stop in the marker before they jump out and it still counts as you getting them there. Or managing to overlap a drop-off and a pickup, so you're able to get your next customer without losing any seconds. And the best of all, there being no penalty for hitting characters, so you could just send them flying. But that's just the main mode, so what else does this game have to offer? The first of which is Sunday Drive, and as the name implies, this is a much more laid-back version of the main game, since you have no timer to worry about when delivering passengers or just in general. And with no timer, you are allowed to explore the level naturally, and see all the cool little details that are found within each level, as well as the small little jokes that you might miss while playing normally. It's also a good game mode to learn the map, as well as find all the hidden shortcuts. So all in all, a neat little piece of side content. Next up is Mission Mode, which consists of 10 missions, where you're either trying to get someone to somewhere within the allocated time, or trying to hit a certain amount of something within the amount of time given. And well, I mean, it is something different, I guess. It's just that, well, to be perfectly honest, it's way too easy. All the missions can be done really quickly. I mean, I was going into this remembering them being super hard as a kid, but no. But I will say that the reward for completing all of these missions is pretty cool. it being Homer's $82,000 monstrosity, the Homer. This leads us to the final mode, which is head-to-head, which is obviously the multiplayer mode for this game, which unfortunately means that I did not get to play it. But I did check out some footage of it, and it seems like it would have been a fun little versus mode, with two people trying to fight for fares and trying to get them to their destinations, and you can like bump into each other to steal the fare, and I would imagine that whoever got the most amount of deliveries won. Alright, that wraps up the game modes as well as the general positives this game has. We must now shift gears into the unfortunately large amount of negatives that this game has. And starting off this laundry list of complaints is something minor, I'll admit, because it's something that could be turned off, which is well, I said earlier that the characters all speak, but after a while they kind of run out of things to say and just start repeating each other, and it can get very annoying. But this one, as I said, this one doesn't really count because you could just turn the voice volume down. Another thing I mentioned was that I thought it was cool about getting attacked by the buses and even Mr. Burns, but to be perfectly honest, after a while and how frequent they actually are, it just gets annoying after a while and you just don't want to deal with them anymore. I mean, they're still a cool idea, it's just they should have been moderated better. I know this is subjective, but I just honestly think that there are just two straight up bad levels in this game, that being both the dam and the mountains, and I just don't like how they're designed. I mean, I get that they're probably the harder levels, but there's just way too much nothing with the long roads and way too many, well, actually way too little amount of like places to drop people off at, locations that are just way too far between each other. The characters don't seem to have their own like advantages or disadvantages. Like all the cars seem to go at the same speed, the only difference is how big or small the car is. The controls are very slippery and loose, which for the most part is actually really good, but there are some parts where this can be a detriment. Combine that with the very like floaty jumps that the cars make, it's very easy to crash yourself into like the walls or clip into the ground or whatever, or at the very least just get way too discombobulated or disorganized. And I gotta be completely honest, these issues don't really tarnish the game that much. It's still a very enjoyable game despite them. It's just that the one big one that does it for me is the fact that this game runs itself way too thin. And this is through two ways. The first of which is that it just costs way too much, or you need to get way too much money to unlock stuff. You know, it starts off simple with like $1,000, then $5,000 and $10,000, but then it just ramps way too up to $25,000 and then eventually, I believe, $50,000? Or 100,000 even. And then because you're only able to unlock one thing at a time, you basically have to pick your poison between either being screwed with the same characters over and over again or the same locations over and over again. And this is just one byproduct of the big bomb that this game drops, which I will tell through my view when I was playing through this game. And well, here's how it went. I made it to about $200,000 and the game was starting to run to wear on me. So originally I was planning on looking up a guide on how to quickly beat this game, because I do remember it cuts off after a certain amount of money. Like you win the game. But rather I decided that I had enough of this game, like my fill of it, and instead I just decided to boot up my old profile that I did beat the game on and just check out the ending cutscene, as well as check out how much money you actually did need to complete the game with. And when I did this, I was genuinely shocked that the game expects you to get $1 million in order to beat it. And that's just the big final straw with this game, for me at least. This game cannot hold you long enough to get that much money. I mean, I did say that I beat it back in the day, but I'm pretty sure I did the same thing of looking up a guide of how quickly I could do it. And I don't have to be the one to tell you that looking up a guide to play as little as the game as possible to get it done as quickly as possible isn't, like, good for the game. In my opinion, it definitely should have given you the win after 200,000 or 250,000. But in the end, with all that said, I guess, what is my final conclusion for this game? Well, it's a game that's fun in short bursts, but not one to see through all the way to the end.
Would you like a receipt? Too bad.
Friend, I don't think you're gonna last too long out here driving like that.
What do you mean, game over?
Well, I guess that answers the question of why this game was overshadowed. Even after all these years, I still don't know who the secret character is or how to unlock them. My guess is that it has something to do with the head-to-head mode, and that the car itself is probably Mr. Burns' limo, and you drive it with Mr. Burns or just Smithers.